All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a story from the natural world that's, well, less like a romance and more like a full-on gladiator battle. It's an incredible tale of conflict, of evolution, and of a biological arms race that is just truly bizarre. So I want you to just forget everything you think you know about courtship in the animal kingdom, because for some creatures, reproduction is a violent, damaging, and outright aggressive affair. And you gotta ask, right? Why would evolution ever favor a system that seems so brutal? We're about to find out.
The scientific name for this is traumatic insemination, and it is every bit as intense as it sounds. We're talking about a male completely bypassing the female's normal reproductive system. He literally stabs her with his reproductive organ to inject sperm straight into her body. Nope, I'm not kidding.
So let's step onto the battleground and meet the main character in our story. This is an insect whose entire reproductive life, their whole strategy, is built around this one shocking process.
Yep, it's the common bedbug, that unwelcome guest that so many of us dread. For this tiny little insect, traumatic insemination isn't just an option they pull out sometimes, it is the only way they can reproduce. Their biology is completely shaped by this incredibly aggressive form of mating.
The process itself is basically a three-step assault. First, the pierce. The male uses a sharp, needle-like organ to puncture the female's abdomen, and right away, that's a huge risk for infection. Second, the inject. He deposits his sperm directly into her body cavity, into her internal fluid, which is kind of like her blood. And third, diffuse. From there, the sperm just has to swim for it, navigating through all this internal chaos to hopefully find and fertilize her eggs. It's just a shocking and honestly, a seemingly inefficient way to get the job done.
Okay, so this brings us to the big why. Why on earth would a species evolve to reproduce like this? Well, the answer lies in a really fascinating concept called sexual conflict.
Back in 1979, the famous biologists Richard Dawkins and John Krebs gave us the perfect analogy for this. They called it an arms race. Think of it like a constant escalating battle between the sexes. An evolutionary move that gives the male an advantage often comes at a huge cost to the female, which then forces her to evolve a countermove. And the cycle just goes on and on. Now, if you look at it from the male's point of view, the advantages are purely strategic. This brutal tactic is a shockingly effective way to make sure his genes get passed on. He gets to bypass any physical plugs left by rival males. He gives his sperm a head start in the race to the eggs. And maybe most importantly, he completely takes away any choice the female might have in the matter. It is a grim but ruthlessly effective strategy for winning. But here's the thing. This is not a one-sided war. For every offensive move in evolution, a defense is almost always just around the corner. And what the female bedbug evolved in response is nothing short of brilliant. First, let's be crystal clear about the damage. This process is incredibly costly for the female. In fact, studies show that frequent mating can shorten a female bedbug's lifespan by a staggering 25%. And that damage comes from all sides. The open wounds are a gateway for infection. Her body has to mount a massive immune response, and she has to spend precious energy just healing the trauma. It really compromises her ability to survive.
So, facing these insane costs, the female bedbug evolved a piece of biological armor. It's called the spermalage. It's this specialized, reinforced patch of tissue on her abdomen that has evolved in the exact spot where males tend to pierce them. You can almost think of it as a biological bullseye that she created to guide the damage to a place where she's prepared to handle it.
A specialized organ. A biological shield. That all sounds pretty impressive. But the real question is, does it actually work? Does it protect her? Well, scientists designed a really clever experiment to find out, and the results? They're pretty striking.
The proof is right here in this data. Scientists basically mimicked the male's piercing with a tiny, sterile needle. And get this, when they pierced a female outside of this armored zone, her lifetime egg production was cut in half. A devastating 50% drop. But when they pierced her directly inside the spermalage, her fertility was almost completely unharmed. The shield works. It absolutely works.
And you don't have to take my word for it. The researchers who did the study concluded, and I'm quoting here, that females are well counter-adapted and that the spermalage efficiently reduces the direct costs of the trauma. She can't stop the attack, but she has evolved to withstand it. It's an incredible countermove in this evolutionary chess game.
Now, as bizarre as this whole thing is, you might be thinking this is just some weird one-off fluke of nature. But you'd be wrong. Bedbugs are far from the only creatures locked in this kind of conflict. This is a recurring theme in nature's playbook.
Traumatic insemination has actually evolved independently in a shocking variety of animals. We're talking certain kinds of spiders, some snails, fruit flies, sea slugs, even parasitic worms and flatworms. The fact that it's popped up so many times in totally unrelated species tells us that under certain evolutionary pressures, nature keeps finding this same brutal solution. But perhaps the most wild and memorable example comes from certain species of flatworms. Because they're hermaphrodites, meaning they have both male and female parts, they engage in something called penis fencing. They literally duel with their reproductive organs, each one trying to stab and inseminate the other. The loser is the one who gets inseminated and has to bear all the energy costs of developing the eggs. It's a real duel.
So, okay, we've seen the battle, we've seen the armor, we've seen the bizarre duels. But why should we care about the violent sex lives of bedbugs and flatworms? What does any of this actually mean for us?
Well, this bizarre biology actually has some surprisingly practical takeaways. For one, understanding the spermallege and how bedbugs reproduce could lead to smarter, more effective pest control. It also shines a light on some really unconventional ways that diseases might be transmitted. But beyond all that, this story is just this incredible, dramatic window into how evolution actually works. It shows us how competition is this powerful engine that drives the amazing and sometimes violent complexity of life on our planet.
And that really leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? The story of the bedbug is this incredible reminder that the natural world is just filled with conflicts and solutions we can barely even imagine. It makes you wonder, if this is just one of the evolutionary arms races that we've managed to uncover, what other bizarre, fantastic dramas are still playing out all around us, completely hidden from view?